It's time for Talking Pictures Trivia. A quick friendly reminder, there's a warp at the end of level 1-2.
Welcome to Talking Pictures Trivia, the podcast in which a group of geographically challenged friends explore movies through trivia as an excuse to keep their friendships alive. I'm one of these friends and today's host, Nick, and with me is...
Tom.
And KJ.
Great to have you back as always. Additionally, joining us as guests for this episode are...
Andy.
And Nora.
Thanks for joining us today, Nora and Andy. Nora and Andy are friends with KJ and joined us for the Coming to America episode back in November. That's the first one. As a team, they were able to take down our team of co-hosts. Let's see if they can do it again. Nora and Andy conveniently continue to like movies. For those joining us for the first time, we start off each episode with a movie quiz, as these pivotal questions will determine who earns today's trivia crown. Then, once the fierce competition is over, we follow it up with our famous movie rant, where anything goes. KJ, tell us about today's movie.
Today we are going back to Thursday, March 4th, 2021. Here in my household, we enjoyed some bibimbap made by my wife. We watched the Flyers defeat the Penguins in an exciting comeback game. And sometime during the second period, I realized Coming to America had been released on Amazon Prime Video. Coming to America is directed by Craig Brewer, who is also known for Hustle and Flow, the 2011 remake of Footloose, and Dolomite Is My Name. Other big movies released on streaming at the time of this recording include Wonder Woman 1984, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, and the soon-to-be-released Godzilla vs. Kong. Nick will be quizzing us today. Nick, what is Coming to America all about?
33 years later, we have a sequel for Coming to America called Coming to America. In this movie, we're introduced to Prince Akeem, who will soon be King Akeem, and we find out, uncharacteristically, I would say, that he has a bastard son in America, specifically in Queens. And based on the tradition of their people in Zamunda, he has to have a son for a royal heir. So he travels back to Queens and brings him and his mother to Zamunda. Most of the movie takes place in Zamunda, and there's a lot of callbacks. So that's really all I want to talk about. We'll go into the actual movie in the conversation. Tom, if you only had one word to describe Coming to America, what would it be?
Generations. How about you, KJ?
Celebration. Nora?
Self-aware. Andy?
Older.
And my word would be continuation.
It's time for Movie Quiz.
We're going to mix it up a little bit here today. We're going to return to our teams of guests versus co-hosts. In this round one, that is, each question will be worth 1 point.
It's time for Question 1.
Who did Eddie Murphy originally want to play the role of his bastard son? Hint, he's in the movie.
I too read the IMDb trivia, so I am aware of the answer.
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, you're a team, so you guys can
Oh, wait, we're a team?
nominate.
So how do we decide who answered?
KJ, do you know?
Talk
Yeah.
amongst yourself.
Yep.
Oh, I'll text. You want to text me?
Locked in.
Andy, you got this.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're locked.
Okay. I will start with Andy.
Tracy Morgan.
KJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same. Tracy Morgan.
Yes. Tracy Morgan was originally going to be his son. However, not really originally. It was just an initial idea Eddie Murphy had. And Arsenio Hall had a conversation with him about this idea and pretty much allowed Eddie Murphy to come to his own conclusion that they look the same age. So that would have been a challenge. Now, the reason I brought this one up was I wanted to talk about characters that didn't make sense based on context. And my example to start off this, or at least my opinion, is Prince Akeem himself, the now king, as in the prior movie, he was very ethical and with a high moral code. And I just felt that it was a different character. And I feel this happened throughout the movie. And I wanted to just open it up to conversation of the portrayals of the different characters based on our understanding of them in the original.
Yeah, I would feel like he kind of got watered down a bit.
Yeah, I kind of took it as just like getting older and like I don't know, like generations of people have been like super idealistic and like I'm gonna change the world when they're young, and then they become like accountants. So like this was kind of that.
Yeah, he's a little tired, right? Are we talking about Eddie Murphy as a performer or as the character?
No, the character, I think.
Oh,
Either
okay.
way.
I was gonna say, I mean, the whole idea is that the he becomes his father, right? You know, that's the problem in the movie. That's the conflict, that he's become his father, and that he's become a bearer of tradition and not somebody who is, I don't know, bringing the kingdom into the 21st century, as his wife says, which he was, since he is the person who initially violated the tradition by going outside the bounds of arranged marriage. It seems like he would be the person with that kind of characteristic, but the story is he's become his father, and then he has to, I don't know, unbecome his father, something like that. That's the kind of generational conflict that's going on. It's, and he has to listen to his bastard son to learn this. He has to listen to his daughter to learn this. So it's this sort of story of the child becoming the father of the man.
Did anyone else have trouble just buying into that premise? Because the whole reason we like, or at least I like the original one, was that role. He wanted to do something different. And in the end, he came, it seemed out of character from everything that we knew about him. And I know time changes things, but it just did not, it seemed like a very convenient dramatic shift just so that we can have a movie.
Well, it's very traditional for women to not want to become their mothers and then become them, and for men to not want to become their fathers and then become them. So, I mean, I feel like that's in a lot of different stories, because the inevitable march of time and life beating you down create, you wonder how your parents got that way. The answer is they lived that long.
Yeah, and he's also the bearer of this tradition, right? He's living. I mean, what we have here is a kind of a traditionalist society that gets interrupted, that can't continue its tradition, and has to kind of bend over backward in order to do that. And on top of that, you have Nextoria, which is putting pressure on it to continue this tradition, and so he has kind of all these. He's no longer, as king, he is now embedded in more responsibility than he initially was. And so the kind of responsibility blinds him, by the lens of the movie anyway, to the promise of the ideals that he had when he was young. And so that's kind of the problem. He gets kind of enmeshed in responsibility.
And I agree, that was the problem with Akeem. But then even Eddie Murphy felt tired. I think you might have started to say that before, Tom. Right. One of the things we said in our last Coming to America episode is we really enjoyed the young performances of Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. I felt like a lot of times he was shot from the chest up because they didn't want to show how tired he's become, not only physically but just as he is. And I felt the movie suffered a lot from not only Akeem's seeming like a different character, or transitioning to an adult character, but also I don't know if Eddie Murphy could have done it in a different way.
What makes I'm not a big fan of the first movie either, just because Akeem has really nowhere to go. He has no arc of development in the first movie. He's sort of wonderful and from beginning to end. The people around him sort of evolve, but he really doesn't have to go through that development. But yet Eddie Murphy has such a kind of a princely demeanor in that movie. Even when he's the valet and he wears that red jacket, he sort of wears it better than anyone could. He kind of wears it like a prince. He understands walking into those shoes. And in this movie, he's still Eddie Murphy, but there is something, he does seem like you said, KJ, he seems more tired, and he's like physically very different now. He isn't the kind of young, handsome, trim fellow he used to be, which is fine. But you could see like the energy with James Earl Jones, who's, God bless him, I think he's 90 now. And James Earl Jones still has the same kind of sense of mischief, right? He brings that to this character that he did however many years ago. It was 32, I think you said, Nick. And so, yeah, it does feel like there's
33.
something even lost. 33. Yeah, seems like something that is even lost in the performance.
Yeah, I feel like Eddie Murphy usually, like definitely in the original movie, but some of his other roles, there's like a physicality to his acting that wasn't like necessarily physical comedy. He was like all in.
It was like a wound spring all the time before it. Like the energy, is like intensity was just in him.
No, I can definitely see that. I did think that there was still the vibe of that they were just having fun. Like mostly it's like, I felt like in the first one, and then again in this one, there's like this undercurrent of like, can you believe they're just paying us to mess around like this? Like, like that him and Arsenio Hall and all that, like that it's like just fun.
I think this one, it was much more obvious though that they were just playing around and getting paid for it. The first one actually had some, I mean, listen, maybe the script wasn't a masterpiece, but I could buy into it.
It's time for question 2.
While Lavelle is trying to find his purpose in the world, what is the name of the firm in which he is interviewing for employment?
Locked in.
Should we text each other?
I knew. No, we'll each answer one. I knew this question was coming, Nick.
Oh, it was the firm.
The firm.
Yeah.
The firm.
Okay.
Wait, they didn't lock in yet, so give it a second.
Or do you want to go? I'm not sure exactly what it is. I know what it kind of is.
I'm gonna text Andy.
I will say that I'm pretty sure KJ knows exactly what it is, but let's.
So we're locked in. Duke Enterprises.
Oh wow! All right, so yeah, so Tom, let's. So Tom and I texted. I like our answer, even though we might get it wrong, and let's do it together, Tom.
Is it the same answer? Do you have the same answer as me?
It depends on how specific. Yeah. My answer's the same as yours, so it depends on how specific. Nick, but so I'll say Duke and
Duke.
I thought that they just did Duke, but maybe it's
the
Duke
answer
Duke.
is Duke and Duke.
Ooh.
All right. Yeah.
But now you're making me question if they changed it, but I'm pretty sure it was Duke and
Thought it
Duke.
was just,
I can see it going
Fact
either way.
checkers, fact checkers. Now, the original was Duke and Duke.
oh yeah, definitely.
I'm pretty sure it was Duke and Duke.
There was only one young Duke present, at least. But
Yes. But it was the
Colin
firm
Jost.
of Duke and Duke. And yes,
Mr.
Colin
Scarlett
Jost.
Johansson. Yeah.
This is a perfect example of many callbacks and references. So I thought we might have an opportunity to share some of our favorite and maybe our least favorite callbacks and references that occurred in the sequel.
Yeah, well, that's why I said self-aware, is that I was like, this was a vessel for inside jokes about the first movie.
yeah.
Like that's what it seemed to be.
I could tell you my two least favorite. that entire scene, the Duke and Duke scene, I hated that scene from beginning to end. And my other least favorite was when Lavelle is in the garden with the hairdresser, and he talks about how bad American movies are. All they do is create remakes that nobody asked for. I hated that joke so hard. Those are my two least favorite moments.
It's
like double self-referential or something.
Yeah, I get it on the second one. I don't think I mind the Duke and Duke one. I mean, it was more for the nostalgia of Duke and Duke versus the actual dialogue. So maybe you do have a point there. But I was like, oh, they did it. They referenced those guys.
Yeah, apparently they're back on their feet, I guess.
Well, in Coming to America, he gives them money.
Yeah.
So that's how they start their business again.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like the reference to the remake thing is
Heavy-handed.
Is a little bit when you're you're already pre-making the excuse,
Yeah.
But That's fine.
My favorite callback was in the end when they brought out the beatboxing twins from the initial like trying to meet girls in the bar with like the "My name is Tina," and I'm like, oh, I was like, where are these women?
Well, even the actress who played his wife, I don't think she really has been in much.
I know. Freed
Like,
from the
period.
barking
she's in a lot
curse.
of-
Yeah, like they're like, hey, we're gonna pay you to act again. They're like, yay. I mean, maybe they're working. I don't know.
That was my other favorite callback, was when the new wife was like, whatever you like. Like, whatever business you want.
The very beginning of the movie, actually, our introduction to the royal family starts with the rose petals. And at that point, I still kind of had hope for a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
Mhm. The actress who played his wife was a longtime soap actress. That was
Her name is Sherry Headley.
Oh yeah.
oh, there she is, Lisa. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, she was a longtime soap opera, but anyway.
You knew there was going to be further like McDowell's product development over these years. The one was it was like a
Flurby.
McFlurby.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fun. He's funny. I kind of missed him in it. I'm glad the owner of McDowell's, the father-in-law, popped up again, and the jokes about the cease and assist stuff.
He actually had the best. I think he was one of the had the best advice in like the whole movie. His chat with Akeem was probably one of the most heartfelt. I mean, it was really good advice.
My challenge with some of the callbacks and references, they were very forced. They just created something to connect the dots and not necessarily have a natural flow. Like even though I like that actor, the McDowells and Zamunda, I mean, and Louis Anderson just happens to be there. Like they're just like, we gotta get everybody in here.
I wish some of it was more in the background. Like, I mean, I'll just throw out a really totally different 180-degree example, but WandaVision, for instance, has so the you can mine the back references so deeply in all of it, but you wouldn't know. You have to be in the know to spot the stuff because it's so subtle and so deep. Whereas in this movie, they're just like shoving it in your face. Like I really like the McFlurby because I saw it in the corner in the back of the one scene, and I was like, oh, that's great. And then they like show him right up next to it, like getting the McFlurby. It's like, oh, you couldn't miss it. I just wish they just let it sit and let people kind of discover it more.
I wonder if somebody who this was their first watch and for some reason did not see the first one, like, what would they think of this? They're not catching, because all it was a series of references.
The additional plot, the new characters and whatnot, and the things we're kind of following with the daughter and with the new son, I found so much less interesting and less enjoyable than the original people, that even though a lot of it was kind of jammed in there, I sort of preferred it to to the next generation of kids coming up and what they were doing in the movie. And so yeah, I know they kind of rub your face in it, and they're sort of a little too happy with the story they've created. They're a little too happy with Coming to America, the original. But I think I enjoyed the older people just far more as performers.
At the end of round one, the guests presently have 1 point and the co-hosts presently have 2, but anything can happen in round 2. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Hi, Tom here, and I'm going to read a testimonial from our sponsor. That is Larry Muck's Sword Repellent. I'm a wealthy, sexy, wealthy advisor. When I leave Wall Street at night, ready to slide into a sexy black BMW and ride into the night, I need to know I'm safe. In a gritty, unruly, sexy city like New York, anything can happen. Last month, my best man was robbed downtown, and just yesterday, my sister was mugged coming out of her house. What was similar in both cases, they were both robbed with a sword. Statistics have shown that sword-based crime is probably on the rise, and be it samurai sword, broadsword, or foil, the danger might be real. That's why I use the suave, sexy man solution, sword repellent. Just spray it on your wrists and behind your ears for 20 to 30 minutes, and your entire person will be sword-proof for at least for a while. Ninjas and the Black Knight won't stand a chance against your musky defense. Sword repellent. It's a product.
And we're back. Nora and Andy, we're at the critical point of our episode where we ask the guests a key question. If you could watch this movie with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
So I would watch it with James Earl Jones. But only if he got to sit in a coffin. I would like my own coffin. I don't want to die in the middle of the movie. I just want to be in a luxurious, side-by-side coffins. I think it would be nice.
Yeah, I kind of struggled with this one. I don't know. On one hand, I was like, I don't know, Eddie Murphy or Arsenio Hall. But I don't know. I feel like in coronavirus, just like, I don't know, maybe just like a couple of friends in my actual house. Without masks on, is that too much to ask?
Something realistic, Nora. Something realistic.
Just like salsa. You remember salsa?
When we used to be able to, eat in the presence of others, and watch a movie, popcorn. Anyone I
Any
know
of your
to in
friends
Miami.
is your answer, basically.
Remember pants? I remember wearing pants. They chafed occasionally, but they were very nice.
Amazing.
As one of Nora's friends, I'm looking forward to this, especially if James Earl Jones is going to be
Apparently, in the
Gonna be-
house, it's gonna be James Earl Jones in a coffin. So like,
in a coffin.
Are we all getting our own coffin that's slightly reclined for
Sounds
our?
awesome.
Oh
comfort?
yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
feel like it's got to be good for
Very
your
Maybe we
back.
can do this during COVID.
we might be able
How big is
to. we just spread it around and then nail up the coffin.
So, do you guys think James Earl Jones have seen the movie? Do you think this would be his first watch?
I bet he has not seen it.
You really? I bet he's watched it.
Lots of actors don't watch their movies, especially if they're just in it a bit. They don't. You think they would be inclined or need to? People don't. They do their thing and they're done.
So here's the deal with James Earl Jones's role in this film. They were all recorded. Every scene with him was recorded remotely. So those people were not in the room. So he did not even show up with the rest of the cast to film his parts. So I think he may not have seen it.
I imagine he'd say, "This film doesn't work."
I ran into him once.
That's cool.
Okay, Tom.
Whoa.
Physically?
Yeah, like I was backstage at a Broadway house, and because my parents are friends with Robert Sean Leonard's parents, and he got us backstage at what's it called, at Long Day's Journey into Night at this, and James Earl Jones was also just going backstage to say hello to the cast, and so it was pretty cool. But yeah, he's that's it.
How did this not come up on the first episode? I feel like that's
I don't
very
know. I forgot about it.
It's time for question 3.
How is the conflict between Zamunda and the nation of Nextoria, led by General Izzy, played by Wesley Snipes, resolved?
Locked in. Do you want to lock in, KJ?
Yeah, locked in.
Yeah, I'll text you what I'm thinking.
anyway. Did you see my text? Or you got it? I'm kind
No,
of guessing.
I did see it. It could be. I feel like we're failing on this one.
I do feel like we're failing on this one.
Sure, we're locked in.
The late lock-in's going first. Handy.
Well, it wasn't by marriage. So it was through commerce, basically, or trading with them.
He's defeated by Wesley Snipes' character is defeated by the 3 daughters of Prince now King Akeem with big sticks, and then they open trade routes after.
Yeah, basically like an episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A very similar conflict resolution to,
Yes.
you know.
I'm just saying, as a
Ninja
mother
Turtles.
of 3 daughters, I'm pretty sure they could do some damage with some sticks.
Yeah, I would not imagine any 3 daughters would be able to resolve an international war with sticks, but that's why we have the movies.
Tradition.
Okay. The 2 points are going to go to the co-hosts.
I mean, technically, our answer was partially correct. We just didn't mention the sticks.
No, the sticks are the critical moment here. The staffs. Everyone knows if you beat a warlord with staffs, he's going to relinquish all power and open up trade routes. Like, that's just what happened.
If they only knew that in Rwanda.
The reason I brought this one up is to talk about these wonderful plot points in this film. This is a perfect example of they got in a little feud with staffs and got the best of the Nextorian leadership, and now everything's good. Keep in mind, not only did Prince Akeem reject one of their suitors back in the day, his son has now rejected a suitor, but this conflict where they get beat by staffs makes everything okay. This is a perfect example of how they barely threw a plot together for this film. We can talk about all the other plots. We can talk about this one. They're just really, really loose. And I don't expect a very deep plot in a comedy, but give me something somewhat viable.
Did enable Arsenio Hall to say that line about the baboon thing that he said from the first movie. So, that was mostly worth it.
He didn't say much in this movie, if you really think about it,
No.
other than that line. He really was a background character.
Well, I mean,
But
he's
yes.
main character, but the other characters were like his other people.
True.
Yeah, I mean, comedies don't really need a complex plot, right? And often
Complex is not the problem here, Tom.
I think I actually would say that I think there's probably too much plot.
Really?
Yeah, I thought there was too much because so you think of any kind of great comedy, the plot, the conflict just kind of goes away, right? I mean, we can make fun of the fact that this was resolved with girls with sticks, but I mean, Midsummer Night's Dream is resolved with fairy dust. Like it whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. That's not really the point of this. Or if you ever read As You Like It. As You Like It is resolved when like the bad guy goes running in the woods and meets a monk who tells him not to be a bad guy anymore. So he does it, right? It's like, that's so like comedies don't really need these kind of complex resolutions. My problem with the plot in this is you have really two kind of characters who are sort of having to negotiate this kind of weird traditionalist mode. And we're not exactly sure who we're supposed to be following or why. We have Lavelle, and then we have Akeem's eldest daughter. And it's really hard to spend your time with Lavelle because it seems like it's set up that Akeem's daughter is the person we should be following. And I had a lot of trouble watching this movie balancing the the film seemed to have a lot of trouble balancing the attention it was paying to both these characters. And like Lavelle, I thought he was such a dud. I thought he was such an uninteresting character that I had a lot of trouble like watching him and rooting for him. I kind of wish more of the plot had passed to the daughter.
Lavelle was just kind of like milquetoast. He was like he was pleasant. He wasn't really mean or bad or anything. He was pretty smart and nice, but other than that, he wasn't anything.
We're told in the beginning that he's this highly competent character, and there's reasons why we like characters regardless, right? One of them could be competence. Somebody's just really good at something or has a particular skill, and we want to see them like develop that skill and take on the mantle of whatever they need to take on. This is Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is really competent with the Force. He just has to learn how to deal with being immature and whatnot in those 3 movies. Lavelle, we're told he's competent. We're not told why he's competent or in what way. And so we're just sort of watching him sort of strut around this kingdom, trying to overcome these problems. And the competent character is the eldest daughter, who even tells him how to, she's the one who figures out how to get the tiger whiskers, right? And so I spent this whole movie waiting for this character's what it is about him that we're supposed to find so intriguing. And it turns out that he's willing to marry for love, right? He has that sort of tick that Akeem had when he was a prince back in the 80s. But man, there is a lot of time when he is just some guy. And like you said, Andy, he's just kind of a milquetoast guy. There's not a lot to him. He's interested in smartphones. That's the only, I think, fact we have about Lavelle. And he knows the barbershop series.
Yeah, well, and also I feel like they can't make up their mind whether he's supposed to be like competent and like, you know, better than his circumstances, or is he like fish out of water dude from Queens who's a typical dude from Queens who's in like Zamunda. Like he goes back and forth between both. And it's like what do you, which one is he?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Nora. I think it's a really good point. It's like, are you the kind of somewhat bumbling, somewhat clownish fish out of water?
Yeah, like Leslie Jones was like clearly that one.
Yeah.
And she was amazing and hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And she like went all in for that. But like
Mm-hmm.
there was like some of that like initial like he can do better and do more if he just had different circumstances, or maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
yeah, maybe he's also, you know, and like Tracy Morgan is also like that.
Yeah.
But he's not, I think that's a really good point, because he's not enough of a straight man to balance off Leslie Jones, but he's not enough of a, you know, so I felt like he dragged her comedy down almost, because he's just not enough of a straight man to balance that, but he's also not enough of a like clownish fish out of water. He's not her, so he's not like the embarrassing in-law, funny in-law type thing. He's not really one or the other. And he doesn't really find a place in the movie until, you know, basically the end of the movie, when he runs off with the hairdresser. And by that point, you know, we're, you know, more than an hour and a half in, more than an hour in.
I think the daughter, though, I wish there was more development of the daughters' personalities, because they had a lot of potential, and they were very interesting in the dynamic of the three daughters growing up with no male heir and taking on the responsibility. I feel like, well, I have three daughters, so I'm biased, but I think that the three daughters there's tons to mine and interesting stuff they could have done, which they did a little bit of, but I feel like they could have done a lot more.
It's time for question 4.
The last question. The points will be equal to the correct answer.
Ooh.
I do not know the address of that McDowell's in Zamunda. But I'm sure Pat Gavin does.
The question is, how many actors reprised their role in the cast from the original film? This is a Price is Right answer, so you have to get closest without going over, and that number will be the amount of points for the question. Anyone's game.
Actors, not characters.
Arsenio Hall only counts as 1, is what we're saying.
Yes, actors.
PJ, I wouldn't have known him.
Oh, yeah. -1 for them, because I think I get Arsenio Hall.
It's still the cumulative number, so even if you gave one up,
Right,
you both
give
just
us
add
Arsenio.
him.
Mm-hmm. I have. Did you see the number I have, KJ?
Yeah, but I don't think counting's the way to go. I think throwing a dart at a dartboard, because are you counting the twins that bebop?
I did, yeah.
Oh.
You son of a. No nonsense, everyone. Oh, I have another. I'm gonna have to start writing them down.
Yeah,
I'm gonna laugh if Tom finds more than I thought.
Yeah.
Babe, we should. Are you listing them out, babe?
Yeah. So I'll send you my first list. You can see if you want to add to that.
Yeah.
So what of your number did I not list out? Or were there any that I got that you didn't have?
No, you didn't have any more.
But I've only said 10. Sorry, I said a number.
Yeah, so I think it was only the additional one that I sent you. I think I think we should go with that, unless we can think of somebody new.
I know. I'm just trying to go through the movie in my head.
I think we're at that time.
I don't.
Final numbers.
Your guess is as good as mine, Tom.
Final numbers.
There's no way to know how many dancers came back for the dances.
No, this would be major things you could point out.
Yeah, I would. I'm going to go with 0 because they're
right.
They're not 50.
They were really trying to go for the nostalgia.
Yeah.
You don't think they did some nods to the old?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Totally.
Final numbers.
I mean, they'd like. Okay, let's do it. We're locked in.
Oh, let's lock in.
Tom, what's the number?
What do you think? Does that work?
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm going to lock in 14.
Okay. Andy.
We're locking in 11.
And the points go to nobody. 10. 10 is the number of major characters.
I have more than that.
Reprise
More than that.
No, but we found more.
Yeah.
10 that count.
Okay, so I'm sorry. We have James Earl Jones, Eddie Murphy, Lisa, Arsenio Hall, the two twins, Lisa's dad. What's his name? The white guy that works there.
Louis.
Louis?
Yeah, Louis
Louis Anderson.
Anderson.
We have the
Anderson.
other guy who's in the barbershop. The
other guy. Yeah, the other barbershop.
Yeah, the other guy. You have the announcer who sings like
yeah,
this.
the nice singing guy.
The Queen
Yeah,
to be
and then
guy. Yeah.
You also have the sister of Wesley Snipes, the barking girl.
Keep going.
Sure. Yep.
She's revised her role.
Yeah. Yep.
That's already more.
No,
than
well,
10,
keep
I
going
think.
because they had 11.
Yeah, that's 11. That's our 11.
So,
Oh,
so
that's your
who's your-
11.
I
And
think so.
I thought we had a.
Because otherwise, I'm going to give the
Um,
points to both of you if you're both at 11.
Because I thought we
But
also
they said
had
14.
one of the other people at the barber shop. There was another person.
No,
at the
there's only
barber
one
shop.
person.
I think there's only
There's
3
only-
actors in the barbershop.
And there's one other guy. Okay. Then how did we get 14? We also had
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I had 10, but I've heard confirmation on 11 right now.
Mhm.
So unless we can get confirmation on 3 other people in the next 10 seconds, I think this might have been a last minute steal.
The Babar.
Hello,
Oh,
Babar.
oh, wait, that's probably not the same actor.
Considering it was
Well, the new one was
CGI.
CG, so yeah.
Yeah.
But made to look like.
Oh, the shaman. The shaman.
That
Oh,
was
that's
one of them.
The shaman was actually. It was.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
Arsenio Hall. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
In a last minute steal, even though I thought there was 10, I have been proven that there are at least 11. And Andy and Nora guessed 11. So they will be receiving 11 points, which will bring them
Woo.
to 12. And my co-hosts, sorry, you're only at 4 points.
Wah, wah.
The Dukes. There's pictures of the Dukes.
Oh, the Dukes aren't in it. They're only their pictures in it. If their portraits count.
So apparently there was 11 when internet sources told me 10, but maybe they didn't count the twins as 2 individuals. That's the only thing I can think of. They might have been lumped.
Or they didn't count the twins at all, and there was somebody
No,
else.
I
but
think that
can't-
was the
I can't
majority.
think
But
of
the
it
reason I
right
brought this
now.
question up to wrap up the trivia portion of this show is what I actually thought. I don't want to say they did right, but it was welcoming to the audience. It was, and I think KJ used this word, a celebration of what the original Coming to America was to us fans, or for people like Tom who just watched it. So let's talk a little bit about the good parts of this, even if we have challenges with certain aspects.
I love my favorite character by far in this movie is Wesley Snipes' character.
Really?
Agreed.
General
Really?
Easy. He is so awesome. He's new. He's a new character, and he is the spirit of the original characters in their like caricature unbelievable. he's just out there. And Wesley Snipes owns that part in a way that I haven't seen him since, like, I'm going to go with it, Demolition Man.
Wow. Now, was it the pimp walk that got you? Is that what it was?
The whole thing, the dance, the aura he gives.
He did fit like the original movie.
His crazy lean back walk. It was fantastic. He had the energy now that Eddie Murphy had back then. He brought the intensity.
I do agree with that when it comes to the intensity. And I didn't really think about that. That wasn't the one that jumped out at me, but I could see how you'd say that fit the vibe of the original.
So Wesley Snipes, yes, absolutely. I'm right there with you, Andy. And then I liked all the music scenes. It was fun when they're like, well, let's take a break from the movie and just enjoy this for a few minutes.
The funeral is great.
Yeah.
Gladys Knight and In Vogue and Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, over the in both of these, the commonality is just like over the top, not trying to make sense, just being like bow and not really referential, just kind of like going as far as they can go, with Morgan Freeman like narrating the funeral.
Oh, that's obvious.
My favorite line was, "And no one had sex again."
Well, I think KJ asked me some of my initial opinions after this. I'm like, one of it was like, it's a movie, but the other one was it a music video that was surrounded by a movie? Like, there was a lot of that.
Maybe.
Yeah, and also the expression on James Earl Jones's face, his kind of joy at bearing witness to his own funeral. His character is very similar to the first one. It's like he loves being king, and he has that line in the first movie where he's like, "I always imagined you would bathe. You had sex with your bathers. I did.
I know why.
Yeah. And here, just he's like, let's have the funeral now. He's just he just loves this role as king that he could say what he wants to happen and it happens.
Right.
Yeah. And so I really did it. I like that scene a lot.
Talking about the new characters that did a great job, I really enjoyed the over-the-top comedy of Leslie Jones. You guys alluded to it earlier, but I thought that Fish Out of Water, she made it work. I really enjoyed that. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it, but that was the one. And of course, whenever you throw in Tracy Morgan, he does a great job too. If anything, I feel like he was underutilized, but those were the key main characters. And you guys have convinced me a bit with Wesley Snipes about, sometimes I thought it was a little bit more cartoonish, but I think that did fit the essence of the source material.
Yeah, I was not as into Wesley Snipes. That was not one of my
I was
characters.
mixed.
But I will give you that he was all in.
Yes,
like he was 100% that character. I just didn't really like the character.
Yeah, I was mixed.
But I was a big Leslie Jones fan. I think she's
she was great. She was great.
Yeah, it's just the young characters, and the new plot is such a dud. And the new kids, even the young girl is, I mean, she's fine in the role, but there isn't much to it. It's just, like it's kind of son of a girl power feminist type line that's going on, which is fine, but it's also, there's nothing new in that. And so a lot of the pleasure of watching the movie comes from, the older actors and the older comedians, kind of being able to do their own thing.
It's time for Movie Rant.
Did any of you think that they were going to do the whole paternity test, that wasn't really his son? I thought they were going to go in that direction, and there never was a payoff there. And I thought that was how they were going to get the daughter to be more of a prominent, the eldest daughter to be more of a prominent role. But it never came to pass.
Yeah, I do feel like there was hints of that somehow. I thought that was where they were going.
He said he will just look into his eyes and know by his regal visage or something like that it's his son. I guess that worked.
Or science, know.
I mean, there's these two plots. There's these two arcs of development that are important. It's the girl, the eldest daughter, kind of forcing her father to acknowledge that, that this patriarchal system needs to change. Blah blah blah. And then there's the son who is kind of forcing the father to remember his roots, which is this kind of arranged marriage system needs to change. So they both are sort of correctors of the tradition. They both have that role. But I mean, I had that same feeling that we were gonna discover he wasn't the actual son and then marry the daughter, because there's so much attention paid on him for most of the movie, and it's clear she should be in charge, right? The eldest daughter. It's very clear from the first 15 minutes of the film when you see her fighting with that staff that she should be in charge. And yet it's also clear that this guy, the Lavelle, is not a bad guy, that we're supposed to like him and root for him and hope he overcomes whatever it is. It turns in the end, they turn that to what he has to overcome is the pressure to marry the wrong woman, and that's that. And then he has to kind of remind Akeem of his roots or his own arc of development when he visited Queens, which did feel kind of forced. And I didn't like that actor very much, so I it was just sort of
the actor of the son.
Yeah.
Jermaine Fowler.
That whole plot line, I had trouble with the whole plot line there, just because I was too vested in what Prince Akeem was, that it threw me off. There was some of that dynamic, as you were saying, Tom, between Lavelle and the eldest daughter, especially around the lion situation where they were trying to figure out. If you notice, she was always standing in a higher position, and he was always looking up at her. It was they did it on purpose because it was on multiple shots, and at that point, I didn't know.
And I think she's actually just legitimately taller.
That could be true,
like,
but she was on a higher step.
Like, I think they made it so she was like obviously bigger than him, but I think that was because she actually, like, in the end when they're all dancing, like, she is just taller than him. I was just really glad that they didn't go with the whole like, good news, this completely unqualified dude can marry you and then make you able to run this country. Which is like annoying, which I kind of feel like they stole from the live action Aladdin. I don't know if anybody saw that, but we see a lot of Disney movies. And they like redid the ending where, like, instead of it being like, congratulations, this completely unqualified dude who's like from the streets, you do get to be the king of our country. Like, and they just gave it to Jasmine. But so I feel like similarly in this, they were like, they didn't go for that whole like some random guy from Queens can totally run this country better than you.
Right,
which is frustrating when that happens.
One plot hole of that making is basically like he had many years to deal with this problem. This is a foreseeable problem. He had 3 daughters. What's his plan? He knew he was going to be king. What's the succession plan? This is all royalty talks about.
He wasn't like on death's door. Like, his dad died, so now he became king. But like, it's not like he.
Well, they were going to
assassinate that was the catalyst. Clearly, you're going to get assassinated because you're weak. Oh.
Isn't that a bigger problem?
Well, the other part of that, too, was your father just died, the king. So now you're the king. So what's the first thing you do? Leave the country so the warlord can just march in. Like, that was...
Richard the Lionhearted did the same thing. Richard the First was in England for like 16 months of his reign. Spent most of the time on crusade.
Poor
but anyway,
planning.
that's not here there.
I'd like to once again congratulate our winners of the week, Nora and Andy, taking it down. Second time, right?
Yeah.
I know. We're like the callback.
Awesome.
Really helpful, that 11-point question.
You earned every point of it by proving those people existed in the film. On another note, check out our website, talkingpicturestrivia.com, for more information about us and our episodes. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as our YouTube channel. We are extremely grateful for any positive reviews, as those help others like you find us. If you like what you hear, remember to like and subscribe to our show. Who was your favorite returning character in Coming to America, and why? Let's continue the conversation on Twitter @TalkingStudios. Thanks again, Nora and Andy, for joining us today.
It was great to return for the sequel.
And now Andy will begin singing Queen to Be.
Talking Pictures Trivia.
You can find me on Twitter at ThomasLayman15.
And you can find me on Twitter at KJ10001000.
I can also be found on Twitter at The Nicknamed. Join us next time when we discuss Tom's recommendation from 1959, World of Apu, where we'll be joined by Ben from 3 Films and a Podcast. Should be a fun one. Talk to you then.
Ding, 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 ding.
So tonight during dinner, my daughter says she set up a mall, like a shopping mall outside on the deck. I don't know who she was expecting to come to the mall, but there was presumably a mall out there with an ice cream shop and everything. And after dinner, I was doing the dishes and I looked out on the deck and there she was very proudly mopping the floor for a mall. And